Okay. So last night, I went with a couple of my friends and we went and watched Backrooms. And I feel like I should say my familiarity with the Backrooms before I get into my thoughts on the movie, which isn't much. Like, I'm very marginally kind of aware of the idea and the concept. I remember playing Crow Country. Was that last year or the year before? It was either early last year or the year before. And there was a point where literally you go into some rooms in the back that kind of have that liminal backrooms vibe to it. And I also remember playing Donkey Kong Country. I think I was playing Tropical Freeze with my friend, and then anytime we went into a bonus room, he's like, "Oh, we went into the back rooms," and like that's my exposure to this as a concept. My understanding is it was like a creepy pasta, and then people taking their own spins on it. And the director of this movie has his own kind of mini series based on the idea, and this is an adaptation of the mini series. And I think he said it's in the same continuity. Oh, sorry, there is another thing I'm aware of. There's a there's a Looney Tune. There's like a fan made Looney Tunes parody that threw Sylvester in the back rows. And it's not a Looney Tune or a merry melody. It was a liminal lullaby, and just like right from that title card, I knew I was in for a good time. Like the video was so funny, but that's my familiarity with it. Um, Having now seen the film, I feel like I have a new primal fear on. Like, okay, I remember reading the yellow wallpaper back in like undergrad, and it was something that like slowly drove the narrator crazy. And there were some other like metaphors for what it could symbolize and such. I'm like, no, yeah, if I was here and I just kept seeing like the same walls over and over, but it's never the same wall because it's always like, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Um, I I'm someone that's really sensitive to space. Like if I genuinely like if I have too many tabs on my computer, just seeing all of that clutter bothers me. Like look at this. There's you see this like hole here in the wall. There was a poster that was there. There was a disc plate that was there, and then one day it just fell. It's actually right here. I tried sticking it back up, and it doesn't. So there's just this giant space in the middle, and yeah, like I probably could have made some of these posters like touch a little better. There's little bits of space, and those don't super bother me, but maybe a little bit. But seeing just this giant chunk where something should be and it isn't, I don't like it. It actually kind of bothers me immensely. So, watching this film, which is described in the film as like it was made by construction workers on acid, where there's things where they shouldn't be, there's like walls where there shouldn't be a wall, and all of that. The moment I see Clark, and like this is pretty early on in the film, so like I'm gonna try to go like pretty non-spoilery and then make it clear when I'm really talking about spoilers. But when he's first exploring the back rooms and he like takes off a panel and there's like this long crawl space, I'm immediately saying like to my two friends like no, no, I don't think of myself as claustrophobic because I don't think it's something I encounter on a regular basis. But when I see like long crawl space, I'm like, oh no, this is another primal fear that I guess I have. I hate this. And then he crawls through the crawl space, then he goes into another room, and there's this giant hole in the middle of the floor, and it's just a pit like full of furniture. Like there's nothing scary about it. But I just look, I'm like, I don't like that there's a pit in the middle of the floor. I don't like this. This bothers me. And then there's this other like little hill-ish with a little door on the end. This place is like Wonderland without the whimsy. And that's not a bad thing. I want to make that clear. It's like, it is meant to be weird and disorienting, and to me it is. I enjoyed the film, but I didn't enjoy watching the film. If that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, this is just Wonderland without the whimsy. And I hate this. I hate this immensely. Why am I watching this movie? Because I think it's really good. So the idea that they talk about, and again, this is another way that the film describes it, is that what the back rooms are. How do I want to say this? I guess, yeah, sorry. Still thinking about some like the liminal spaces and like some of the shots. They describe the setting as, imagine describing a dog to someone who has never seen a dog and then having them draw it. Yes, they'll probably get the general idea right, but a lot of the details are gonna be missing. But you do see, as you continue exploring, there are multiple layers, and sometimes you'll see a room. Like, one of my favorite shots in the film is you see a room in reality, and then you see the recreation of that room in the back room, and then another level of recreation, another level of recreation. As it goes, it's more and more like disoriented, and it's almost kind of that idea of like, okay, like they draw a dog, and then you tell them, no, that's wrong, you do it again, and so they draw it again, it's not quite right, etc., etc. I didn't think of this while watching the film, but I heard some people saying it afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, duh. It very much, like, every subsequent layer feels like generative AI, like making a thing and then making the thing again and then making the thing again. And instead of making it better and more clear, it's kind of cannibalizing itself and just making it weirder and weirder every time. And when you're watching it as a horror film, I think it's kind of awesome. There's another shot in this movie that I love. This one's kind of mildly spoilery. It happens a decent amount of way into the film, where they're doing a found footage section. Because they're like, the start of the movie is found footage, and there's this one other chunk, I want to say it's like maybe 10-15 minutes or so, that's also found footage, where a character is holding a camera, and they put the camera down, and then they walk away and start like messing with stuff. And then someone else picks the camera up and starts following them. That was awesome. I absolutely loved that shot. Like, that was another one I was like, no, oh, hell no, but in the best possible way. I think there's another shot, it's also during the found footage, where, like, a dude is in a room, and then he just looks up, and it just looks like a normal hallway, but it shouldn't be there, and, like, it's great, and I hate it, but it's great. I still hate it. I did laugh a lot while watching this movie. I can't think of a lot of lines off the top of my head aside from just Pirate Clark, because Pirate Clark is a treat. I absolutely loved those commercials. So, like, well, Clark is one of the main characters in the film, and he's a guy who owns this struggling furniture store, and his ads are he dresses as a pirate. Like, "Arr, come down to Pirate Clark's treasure hoard. It is for his Ottoman Empire." And then the guy shooting the commercials like, I don't know, you call it the Ottoman Empire. Shouldn't you have dressed like a sultan instead of a pirate? But there's, like, you see a couple of the commercials, like, they made me laugh every time. I can't think of a lot of other examples, but just like a line here or there, like a small little observation. Just throughout the movie, I was just kind of chuckling and laughing with the movie, not laughing at it. I'm like, I'm unsettled and I hate this. But there's a lot of, like, the movie's well made and it's also endearing, and those moments kind of help to keep me settled even though I'm unsettled. Like, it really to me, it manages its tone. And this sounds kind of weird to say, but I feel like it manages the audience really well, too. It knows how to just make you creeped out, but also how to let you just settle down. Sorry, like, I literally have some notes written down, and I'm just trying to look at those. Thematically speaking, this is a film about literally being stuck, like, within yourself and within your habits and kind of trying to escape your own labyrinth. And for some people, that's a lot harder than others. Sometimes you might find someone who doesn't want to escape their labyrinth. And to do so, you have to be willing to make a different choice. you have to be willing and able to leave your past behind so you can move forward lest it consumes you. And I do think that's cool. I do think this is an interesting setting to do that. To put it like this, it's the kind of movie where the setting feels like its own character, and it also feels like a physical manifestation of the themes at play, which is something I really appreciated. So, talking about Clark, I say this as someone who just watched the Digital Circus movie a few days ago. I'm not going to go into any spoilers on that. But in my review of that, I talked about how Jax reminds me a lot of BoJack Horseman, and where you have a character where I can sympathize with you because I understand why you are the way you are. I see your struggles. I see the ways that you are trying to cope. I see your attempts, maybe not always to be a better person, but I do see your attempts to be better, to make the best of your situation. There is room for a lot of sympathy here. But I also see you being abrasive and at times abusive. There's a scene very early on in the film where Clark and Mary's his therapist and the other main character, are doing a role play session where she is playing his wife, Clark is playing himself, the night where his wife left him and kicked him out of the house. And just the things that Clark says, when he's in character talking to his wife, yeah, I can see why your wife left you. I can also see the impact that this had on you. And as much as you say that I'm okay and I'm alone but I'm not lonely, I'm fine, that's clearly not the case. But I also see all the accountability you're not taking. And I find that I feel like I'm starting to really enjoy this type of character where I feel like if you want to sympathize with them, you can. If you want to see them as an asshole, that's also just as valid. So, I think my overall thoughts, without trying to go deeper into spoilers, is I enjoyed the movie. I don't expect to take a deep dive down that liminal rabbit hole. It's all right, I gotta now get all the Backrooms content I can. Because as much as I really liked the movie, and I didn't enjoy watching it because it just unnerves me visually. But I think it's a cool idea, and I like how the Backrooms feel like its own character, and like I said, kind of a manifestation of the themes as well. I don't know how sentient it is. I think about Silent Hill, particularly in Silent Hill 2. And there's a part of me that wonders, is this doing a kind of Silent Hill thing? Or is it just its own weird thing that, isn't sentient, isn't trying to mess with people? It just is. So, that's all I will say until spoilers. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers are now live. So I hated everything about Pirate Clark. I will be honest, when I said Pirate Clark is a trait, I intended the pun. But just, oh my gosh. What's really funny is as I'm watching the movie, there's a point where my buddy Clay, relatively early on, I think it's when Clark is first in the back room, possibly the second time, during the found footage section, where he's if the monster ends up being the pirate, I swear I'm gonna lose my mind. And it was something I didn't even think about. And then when I see this 10-foot tall, face smushed, perpetually upset looking carnivorous pirate, no part of me thought to laugh. And it's the kind of thing that I would normally think is hilarious. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. This is so bizarre. And the entire time I'm just... Nah, I hate this. I hate looking at it. Oh, it's so creepy. I hate the way it moves. I hate the way it scruff McGruffed him. What the hell? Oh, one thing I forgot to talk about, and I could have mentioned this earlier, it's not necessarily spoilery, but when he's about to do his exploration into the back rooms, and he's like, all right, I got my camera, I got my rope, I got my supplies, my brain just went straight to House of Leaves. Like, this is straight out of the Vincent record. I don't know if it was that point. It might have been the very start of the movie. It might have been during this section or another section with Clark where, like, they're walking in the back rooms and there's just a bunch of leaves on the floor. I'm like, yeah, is this a reference to House of Leaves? Like, this scene, like, a literal reference? I don't know, but it made me think of it. I thought that was kind of fun. As much as I hated Pirate Clark, I find it fascinating where, like, yeah, Clark was literally consumed by the back rooms. He was like, so if the idea is that the back rooms are like cloning reality and like manifesting bits of reality, but misremembered and all that kind of stuff, I guess you could see it as someone described Clark to someone who had never met Clark. And the way people do seem to kind of know him as also, the pirate guy on TV, but they do see him as a jerk. He, like, his therapist sees him as someone that never takes accountability. It's never my fault. I'm always blaming other people. His wife saw him as an abuser, I would assume, especially given the way her manifestation reacted. Oh God, that scalping scene. I hated that. And that wasn't even like, oh, I hate it, but this is fun and cool. Like, the moment where he's just, like, puts the hair on is like, oh, I hate this so much. I do have to say, though, the scene where there's the other dude in the corner who just, like, he's just like, what, like, oh no, like, the lights aren't enough, and he just puts, like, just like, turns on the lamp. I can't even lie, my immediate reaction, I just gave the dude a thumbs up, and then I think, like, my other friend started laughing at my reaction. I couldn't help it. And then when Pirate Clark runs in, and because the guy can't scream, just show his fear. That was really funny. Like, that was incredible. The best part is, you can eat them. Clark, how do you know that? Why did you ever even think of that? What's wrong with you, man? Like, I hated that so much. And just the, like, stuffing, like, so, I mean, he even calls them furniture, and furniture is filled with stuffing, so is that why? Is it because the backrooms don't know how to manifest organs? Did Pirate Clark bite regular Clark? Like, because there's a lot I can read into that. Part of it might just be, people see him as someone who someone who will consume and use other people. He did not seem that concerned for Kat, and I don't remember the name of her boyfriend. I want to say Bobby. I feel like it's Bobby, but I'll feel kind of bad if I'm wrong. But he didn't seem too concerned about them. It was, what can you do for me? Like, he doesn't seem too concerned for Mary's safety. It's, what can you do for me as my therapist? And so maybe that's part of it. It's, you consume people. You don't really care about them. So your other, I guess, your reflection, question mark, does that to you. Is it because he refused to change? So the manifestation of all of his worst traits was like, well, I don't have to change either then, and so just gave into its impulses. That's, again, him being literally consumed by his inner demons, which I think is super neat visually, but also I hated it. He was also seemingly coexisting with Pirate Clark. And I don't know if it's like he just avoided interacting with that. I assume it was Pirate Clark that picked up the camera. So they've met before. So either Clark escaped or they were cool with each other. Because it seems like he is like trying to calm Mary down so she doesn't make too much noise to attract Pirate Clark. But is that I don't want you to do that because I don't want him to attack me? Or it is, I am trying to do this for your own good. You just don't know that I'm staving you right now. I genuinely don't know. But seemingly, he can coexist with his other self while he's contemplating that idea of changing, but once he decides, no, I want to just stay here, well, now he can stay here forever. That scene when he is at the dinner table with Mary, I feel like that is my favorite scene in the film. As much as I love, like, a lot of the fun cinematography, and as much as I love, like, the picking up the camera, that whole scene is so deeply human. And, like, the part that I just keep replaying in my head is Mary telling Clark, you never take accountability. And then him go like, wait, were you saying this is my fault? Like, still not taking accountability. And he starts crying and just says, I don't want to change. That was my favorite moment in the film. It's, like I said, it's deeply human, but it's so deeply sad. The fact that, you know, his life got to the point where he would rather stay here than try to fix it. But also, you know, you kind of get the sense that, like, I've, you know, tried to live my life. I've tried to do things, and I just can't, like, it's too hard to change. It takes too much out of me. I would rather just give up. So yeah, now I have unlocked the primal fear of liminal spaces and the primal fear of long carnivorous pirates. Thanks, Backrooms. Didn't know I had something else to be scared of. Like, I was like, I could watch a horror movie just about Pirate Clark, but also I don't want to ever see Pirate Clark again in my life. I feel like I should talk about Mary as well. Is that I think she does work as a foil to Clark. I also have not brought up that scene with the fly just, like, going into the room, and I think that's really, really cool. Something I learned earlier today is apparently the fly was just there during the shoot, and they couldn't get rid of it, so they're like, wait, why don't we just, like, do a cool thing? And that worked out. It's a really cool shot. Is that Mary is also having a lot of trouble letting go of her past. You know, she grew up with a mother who suffered from mental illness. I don't know, because they never specify what it is, and I was also kind of wondering, like, did her mom discover the back rooms a long time ago? Because the dude at the end of the movie is like, oh, you know, like, it seems like doorways have been opening up a lot more recently, but maybe she found an earlier doorway, or maybe this was something completely unrelated. But Mary is still holding on to that. She is still holding on to that trauma of just the relationship she never really had with her mother and the childhood she never really had. And she literally carries around with her, you know, like the handprints in the cement that she put in, you know, when her house was first made. And luckily she keeps it around because she uses it to bludgeon Pirate Clark as he's trying to eat her. And so what do you know? She literally let go of her past and let it crumble so she could move forward. It all comes full circle. But during that bit at the end, as she's, like, going down this really thin hallway and Pirate Clark's trying to reach for her, there's this part of my brain going, like, I know he's trying to eat her. 100%. Is he just lonely? Because it's something that was kind of brought up at the start of the film where Clark is alone, but he's saying that he's not lonely. And maybe the back rooms is, like, a true reflection of how he feels inside. Maybe it's that warped description of a dog where it doesn't understand that difference. But I'm like, is this a person actually trying to reach out for help and reach out for connection in the only way that it knows how? Especially if you think of Clark, like, Clark does use people, he consumes people. So this is its understanding of connection? Well, that's kind of sad. You know, I kind of feel bad for the long carnivorous pirate. I didn't expect to feel empathy for that thing. But like I was saying earlier about, like, Silent Hill, it kind of gets back to Clark being consumed. Was this more of a, if this thing is sentient, if the back rooms itself are a sentient location, because Clark went in there, it was, well, because the reflection of Clark seemed to exist before he went in there. So not necessarily, so I don't think this really holds up, but to just talk through it. He could exist with Pirate Clark because this is a reflection of some of his darker aspects. And it was him trying to understand it and trying to make peace with it before moving on. But the moment he can, in like true Persona style, like, you know, he's confronting his shadow. But where most characters would go, no, you're not me. And that's what triggers the fight. Here, it's Clark saying, yeah, you are me. And that's okay. Because I don't have to change. And so it's like, okay, well, look, man. If you're not going to put in the effort anymore, there's no point to this. There's no point to you. Anyways, that's me talking about this movie. I mean, go see it. You probably already have. Apparently this movie is doing super well, and I think it's deserved. I don't really intend on ever watching it again. But it was really good.